So in this module, mainly basic configuration, basic device configurations, and you're going to even look through the new basic configurations. So the areas that you're going to cover, we have, or we're going to go through configure switch with initial settings. We've already covered this. Then configure switch, the switch ports, secure remote access. This one here we haven't, and you need to pay attention when it comes to this patch. Then basic router configurations, we've already covered this, and then verifying directly connected networks. So under the area that we're going to first look into is configure switch with initial configurations, but still those ones I'm not going to, because I'm sure, and this is a right true assumption that you guys know how to configure the basic configurations on the switch. So still under switch, the switch initial settings were to look at the steps that are taken when the switch is booting up. So after Cisco switch is powered on, it goes through the following 5 steps. Boot sequence. Step number 1, the switch it loads what we call power on self-test post. Power on self-test, that all components, those small units within the switch, they have to be tested to ensure that they pick in power from each other. Of course, not directly from the power source, but from the power system within the switch. The switch loads power on self-test, program stored in ROM. Then post it checks CPU subsystem. It tests CPU, the RAM, DRAM, the dynamic RAM, and then the portion of the flash device that makes up a flash file system. So these are just subsystems checked to see whether they are powered up, then able to get the resources, available resources, CPU, RAM, and then even the portion of the flash file system. Step number 2, the switch it loads what called bootloader software. The bootloader software is a small program stored in ROM that is run immediately after the power on and self-test. After the post successfully completes. So step number 3, the bootloader performs what you call low-level CPU initialization. It initializes the CPU registers. Now the registers, they have to be redistributed to different components, which controls where physical memory is mapped, the quantity of memory, and then its speed. That is the distribution of the available resources. Step number 4, the bootloader initializes the flash file system on the system loader. Then step number 5, which is the final, the bootloader, it locates and loads the default iOS operating system software image into memory and gives it control over the switch, control of switch over the iOS. So this time, the iOS, it's the one to control the switch as the system, including all the internal components. They will be under the management application, which is the Internetwork operating system, or what you call the operating system. So the boot sequence, the boot system command. The switch attempts to automatically boot by using information in the boot sequence or boot environment variable. If this variable is not set, then the switch it attempts to load and execute the first executable file it can find. So it's possible that you can have two images or two iOS on a switch or a router, and then you set it to use a specific operator, the iOS. But if it's not set, then for it, it's going to check in the boot environment and then select the first, any first file or first executable file. So you guys who have ever run or have the Mulch operating system run on your computer, that when the computer is booting, it will give you the option. Which one do you want to boot up with? Is it Linux? Is it Windows? Right? So if you don't select, automatically for it, it will go with the default, the first one. But you can actually change by selecting whichever that you want to, meaning that you have to pay attention at that moment when you're booting it, when the device is booting, so that you select. If not, it will go with the default. And most of the time, which one is the default you guys have ever tried? Is it, if you have Linux and Microsoft, and Windows, which one will run fast? It's Linux. So every time you don't make selection or don't select, then Linux will boot up. So still the same here, that if in case, let's say there are two operating systems, or even more than two, you have to state that every time I'm to boot, it should always be this. Or you can always change. Like, no, I want in the next boot up to use this. You set it. So the iOS operating system then initializes the interface using Cisco iOS command found in the startup config file. So the startup config file is called config text. That is where the commands are always stored, right? And are located in Flash. So if you mess up with Flash, then you know that you will have deleted your operating system, everything. The device, it will be empty. So in an example, the boot environment variable variable is set using the boot system global configuration mode command. Note that the iOS is located in distinct folder, and the folder path is specified. So use the command show boot to see what the current iOS boot file is set to. So we have a table there with the commands and then the definitions. Of course, whatever that we have here, it is a path. Let's call it a path. It's not only the iOS, but it's a path, the location where the file is located. So let's start with the command that we have the boot system, which is the main command. It's a must, you have to have this boot system. Then Flash, it's a storage device. Where is it stored? It is on a flash. Then we have this, which is the path to the file system or the folder where it is. And then lastly, we have the file itself. This is the iOS file name. So this is the command that you're going to use, and then you have to specify the drive, where is it located, and then the folder where the file is stored. So the complete command is here, boot system, and then we have, as you can see, the storage flash, and then the folder, you can see it's this, and then lastly the file. This is a switch, and most of the time this part here that you're seeing, it's part of the switch somewhere. So if this is our switch, always there will be ports up to somewhere there, but there is this column side with all these LEDs. See? These are LEDs. They will be blinking. So when you look at, we have this abbreviation, the first one here. This is system LED, as you can see. System LED shows whether the system is receiving power and functioning properly. Then we have this redundant power supply, shows the status. We have port status here. When green indicates port status mode is selected, which is default. Port status can then be understood by light associated with each. We have a table. There is a table here, so you use that table to master the LED. See? We have port duplex. Port duplex here, still with the LEDs. The LEDs they will tell the status of the port of the switch. So green indicates port duplex mode is selected. Then port duplex can then be understood by light associated with each port. The lights are on the next slide. Port speed. We have power over Ethernet. Still the same. They have to work with the port LEDs on the next in the next slide. So the mode button, which is this one here, is used to move between different modes. Between different modes. As you can see, we have start, duplex, speed, and then power over Ethernet. So you can use these modes when you want to change those the modes of different statuses. So here is a table indicating different modes, because we have, in case let's say the light is off, what does that mean? But for all those attributes, the attributes are here. There are these ones here. So for redundant power supply here, if it's off, then what does this mean? That it's either off or no, redundant power supply. If it's green, it's ready. If it's blinking green, it's up but not available. If it's amber, it's on standby or faulty. If it's blinking amber, there is amber and then blinking, like an indicator. But when it comes to amber, it's a steady amber. It's a steady light. Then alternating green or amber, meaning that you have to be keen enough. Because otherwise you might not actually notice that it's amber and green. It's alternating. It's either it's bringing green and then amber, green, amber. Then nothing is taking place. So for all these attributes here, in your free time, just read through that. Recovering from the system crash, with this one here, I don't always teach this, but the class representative, unfortunately, the class representative is not available, it's not on the call. You have to remind me at the end of the course. That is when I do this practically, or that is the time that I will take you through this. Otherwise, you will mess up with my devices. So you can actually recover the system from crash, mostly maybe when you're installing a new operating system or when you're recovering password. Step number one, you have to make sure that your switch is connected to power. So connect PC by console cable to the switch console port, configure terminal emulation software to connect to the switch. So this is our switch. Make sure that it is connected to the PC. And this cable here, it should be a console cable. Then unplug the switch power cord. Make sure that you unplug this, and then after that, immediately reconnect the power cord to the switch, and then within 15 seconds, press and hold the mode button while the system LED is still flashing green. So once you disconnect, then disconnect it again, and then keep pressing, if you remember the other column where there is a mode button, and then press within the first 15. Once you connect back the cable, within 15 minutes, press and hold the mode button, press and hold it. Then continue holding the mode button until the system LED, which is the other one that indicates that it is receiving power, turns briefly amber and then solid green. Then there you can release the mode button. Step number 5, the bootloader, the bootloader switch prompt appears, or the mode it will appear. So instead of it booting with this prompt, switch with this is the normal one. No? It will, this time it will load with switch with full color, like this, meaning that the mode has changed. Okay? Step number 5, this. So the bootloader command line supports commands to format the flash file system, reinstall operating system software, recover a lost or forgotten password. For example, we have this, the directory command can be used to view list of files within the specified directory. So switch management access, if you want to manage the switch, because ideally a switch, when you look at this switch here, the ports available here, they will not actually allow you to assign an IP address on this device. The ports here, they are layer 2 ports, just switching frames to receives and then forwards to the destination. But when it comes to you to manage the switch here, it needs an IP address. There is no way you can reach a device when you don't know its IP address, or when it's not assigned with IP address. So here we need to create what we call switch virtual interface. Switch virtual interface. You hear the statement virtual. Something that is virtual, you cannot. It's something that is not very good, not physical. Okay, so we need to create that interface on this, and I remember we did that. So all we need is just to access the switch here. You'll be in global configuration mode. The global configuration mode, it looks like this. This is the global configuration mode, and then you call the interface VLAN 1, because all these 24 ports, they're under default VLAN, default group. Still a VLAN, it's virtual, something that you can't see. The virtual VLAN, there is virtual LAN. Yeah? Okay, so all these ports 24, they are under VLAN 1. So we have to use that group. So it will be interface VLAN 1. It's a virtual interface, and then you assign IP address as if you're assigning the IP address on the physical interface. So here is our topology. As you can see, a PC connected to the switch, but this is a console cable, and then we have a router. Our intention is to have IP address on this switch. So whatever that I've explained, blah blah, it's within that the virtual interface. So by default, we have to use this because once you have a switch, it's a must. It has to have a VLAN 1. It's a default VLAN. But most of the time, you can change it to something else. Maybe you create VLAN 99, but still VLAN 99, it is common. It's common. So still you cannot use this. You have to use, anyway, when time comes, that is in chapter 3. I will explain this. So all these ports, they are under this. Once you create another VLAN to actually to omit this VLAN, because you will not delete it, but you can move all these ports and you put them in a different VLAN, and then you use that as the switch virtual interface. So note, switch virtual interface, this will not appear up until you create it. That the moment you try to use 99, it's not known. So you have to create it first so that it is available. Note, the switch may need to be configured with IPv6, for example. Before you can configure IPv6, because by default it doesn't support IPv6, so you have to enable some service so that it accepts IPv6. And the statement used to enable switch virtual interface for IPv6 is this: SDM prefer dual. So the dual automatically here you say instructing it to have 2. So we have this 4 and then 6. And then there you can configure it with IPv6. So the steps for configuring switch virtual interface, they are here. That you have to access switch here. Go to global configuration mode called interface 99. You can use any address. You can use any ID here. But whichever that you're to use here, apart from 1, make sure that you first create it. Okay? Assimilate it to make sure that it is there. 1, it is there because it's the default. But if you are to use any other ID, you have to have it there. So in semester, not in semester 2, those who are planning to chop chapter 3, you will miss that. So after that, set an IP address. As you're setting the IP address, don't forget the subnet mask. This time you can even put IPv6, no shutdown. And then save. So still the switch, it needs default gateway. We need the default gateway. And how are we going to configure the default gateway? Go to global configuration mode IP default gateway, and then you state the gateway. Copy, running config, then start. You save. And then end device, I need one, which is going to be that. Okay, so I need a cable, connect this to this. And then I need a console. So here, and then extend it to that. So the address that I'm going to use here, I can use 192. So anyway, I can actually start with this. Let me first configure the router here. Use this. Go to desktop. Do I need this? No, I need to access. I need to access terminal without changing anything here, but the font is not clear, so I will reply with no. Let me just access this direct. Might increase on the font. Okay, so enable configure my interface. By the way, before you rush to that, you can run the command show IP interface, then brief. So our available ports, it's 00 and 01 gigabit Ethernet. So I'll just go to global configuration mode and then call the interface, which is G0, G00, and then give it the IP address, which is 192.168, then .1, I'll give it a 1, then the subnet mask 255.255.255, then .0. No shutdown. No shutdown. So my interface there, it's the up. That is all I wanted. That is all I wanted. It's up. Now I'm not going to use this PC because now if I use the PC, the font is going to be too small, and you guys may not actually see clearly. So I will access this switch still directly. Go to command line interface, and then here enable, then I forgot to assign IPv6 on this, so it's still under our interface. This time it will be IPv6 and then address. So this time it will be 2001. Then we have, what was it? SCAD, DBH, is following. Yeah, SCAD, then DBH. Okay. DBH, then 1 double, and then a 1 here, /64. 64. So immediately I will do this. If it complains, you know that you've messed up somewhere, but here it has not complained. Then that is enough. I think I can switch this time, go to the switch, and then do the same. So now on the switch, before I rush to the interface, because they are interface, and you can use the same command, show IP interface, then brief. Those commands whereby I would love you guys to be familiar, be used with those commands. Whether you have the configurations or not, the command that begins with show. Get familiar, because those are the commands that you're going to be using to verify. You've confirmed, you've configured this and this, it's time to verify and see, is okay, somewhere, what have I configured? You have to use the command that begins with show. And there are so many. There are so many. If you don't try them out, you will not get to master them or get used with them. So when you look at this, they're available, the physical interfaces, they are here. All these, up to this, 24. Then we have gigabit Ethernet, there are 2. Then somewhere we have this. Are you seeing this? VLAN 1. Huh? VLAN 1. Still it is under the interface. So for us, we are going to use that interface to assign an IP address on that switch, but not under physical interface. It doesn't allow, because they are layer 2 ports. So I'll proceed and then change to global configuration mode, and then call the virtual interface as if I'm calling the physical interface. So it's interface. The reason why I'm using int, I want to save time, but the complete command, it is interface, then VLAN 1. So as you can see that we only have VLAN 1. If you change and use VLAN something else, maybe 2, maybe 3, 99, different ID. So it's not there, meaning that you have to first create it. So from here, I'm going to assign the address, IP address, and the address, it's 192.168, then 1, I'm going to use .2 because the 1, I've already used the 1. And then don't forget, when you're assigning the address, IP address, don't forget the subnet mask. Then 255, then .0. You can even go for no shut, no shutdown. So our interface is up. Now, in case let's say we need the default gateway for this for this switch, we have to be in global configuration mode and then run this command IP default gateway. And the gateway, it's the IP address on the router, the one that we've used on the router. In case let's say your switch is not connected to the router, you don't need the gateway. Okay, you don't need the gateway. In case your devices they do not have a router on the network, still you don't need the gateway. Then from here, state the other address, which is 192.168, then .1.1. Here we don't need the default gateway. Okay, we don't need. And then press enter. That way, like that. Yeah, so that is it. Now, if you want IPv6 address on this interface, it's not going to accept it right now. It's interface, then VLAN 1, that interface. So if I try to type IP, if I type, you see that it's not accepting. You see that? So we need this command here that, and they're saying changes to the running SDM profile have been stored but cannot take effect until the next reload. So from here immediately we need to save whatever that we have. And how are we going to save? Is it being privilege mode? Copy, then run start. Copy, run start. Running config, startup config. So after saving, that is when you can reload. Because if you reload it's rebooting the device. So if you boot the system minus saving, then you will lose whatever that you have configured. So here, we're good to go. So it's going to reload. Okay, now let's check and see. Enable, then configure terminal. If I call the interface VLAN 1, this time and run IPv, you see that it has accepted. IP address, yes please. So here it has accepted. Now let me just copy this to save time. Go back. So I'll just paste using 2 because the other one was a 1. Now this time it's a 2. And then that is it. Even if you don't add the no shutdown, so the IP address it's going to be there.